So welcome back, guys, to another episode of building a meditation app using React Native, Expo, Firebase, and ChatGPT OpenAI API. What we have done is we set up our project. We created this beautiful login and sign up screen. And in this episode, we are going to connect Firebase authentication to this screen so we can sign in and get to the main screen. In this episode description, you can find this link to the Figma file as a community Figma file. You can get access to this beautiful design. So we've done this and this, and now we want to log in and get to this screen. How do we do that? One thing that I've changed basically in auth stack, I just put the status bar on the auth stack because when the app was loading, it wasn't reading this when it was on the app file. So yeah, just change it to here, and now you can see the status bar now actually showing the light status bar, not the dark one. So it's now correct. And one other thing, we always, when we are mapping through any component, we always need to pass a key, which is a unique identification of that component, because it's going to be 2, 10, 20, whatever mapping through like of these components. At the moment, we have 2 of them, email and password. This comes from the credential. If you see the previous episode, part 2, sorry, like you can see, we just map through this. Instead of having 2 different components, we just having one. But each time we're doing this, we need to actually pass a unique key, which at this point is key. Key is basically email or password. So at this point, one of them would be email and then password, as we know that before. If you see, you can just go to this add project and just put a name of your project. Just put a name of your project. Like I put this Zen Escape. That's my project. Everything's fine. Continue. It's just like Google Analytics for this project. It's recommended. I just don't want to do that right now. You can add this anytime you want later on, but at the moment we don't need that. I just don't bother to add that. So this is going to create our project, and in a second we would have access to our Firebase. Okay, the project is ready. What we need to do for authentication at this point is just use the web version. I know you can just connect to Apple and Android if you're doing the native side, but for us on Expo and what we want to do at the moment is just the web part. So it needs the name of the project, like something that, what is the app name? Is Zen Escape. We don't want the hosting. Okay, so at this point, we need the installation of Firebase. That's what we need to install. Okay, we paste this npm install Firebase. What we need is the React Native async storage. Like we need to install that. npm install React Native async storage. If you see React Native async storage /async storage, this is the package that you need as well. So you just need to pass this to the Firebase. So Firebase would handle everything, saving the session locally on the phone. So every time like you just get back to the phone, is always have the main session. And when it access to the internet is also like double check for that. So it makes everything much more smooth when it's going to interact with the app. And it's done behind the scene, and it's absolutely amazing. What we need to do, we need to initiate the Firebase setup. So how do we do that? What I always do is I create a folder called config. Everything that you see on this part that I just not showing you at this point, these are all the secret keys for your project, so you don't want to share this with anyone. So all these goes to the end file, which is like an environment file, and you're not going to push this to your repository, so it's always staying on your device. But the code basically uses that in the background. Yeah, I added that part. And I'm going to the end file. So here's like the documentation if you want for the Expo. So the way that it works, you just create a .env file on the, it says here, on the root directory, the root of your project directory. And the name, the formatting of the name is important. You just say Expo public underline and the name that you want and the value. So the way that it goes, I'm going to put this here. So Expo public and the name that I want. That's it. So this is going to be all I need in here. And for example, this would be, and then when you want to get that value, you use a process.env that things that you specify the other side, Expo public API key, and then you repeat that for everything in here, and you get all those values from your end file to this side. Then this, yeah, this is just the way to do it on Expo. Okay, now we have all these values. Also, what you need to do is import that, just import it. So you want to initiate it basically when the app actually comes up. Like this is the entry point on app TSX. We want, like, when that comes up, we just call this Firebase. So it runs this and initialize your app. Let me just restart this. Yeah, we initialize this, and now we have, what we need is, we need to also initialize the auth. The best way to do that is this, basically. We get the initialize auth and get the React Native persistent from the auth package. There is one catch to this. Let me just show you in the tsconfig. If I remove this compiler option, tsconfig TypeScript basically nagging that this doesn't exist, this import doesn't exist and it's not used and blah blah. So that's just a TypeScript issue. So if you go back to here and add this line, which is like address where this auth list is coming from, then it's gonna get all these like TypeScript and whatever you need from the TypeScript here. So if I save this now and get back here, it's gone. So you have everything's working. And the syntax for initializing the auth is this. What you need is React Native async storage package JSON. So you need to install this React Native async storage and async. So this, like, behind the hood, basically Firebase save all your sessions to the local storage and keep all those sessions available. So yeah, like, you need to import this basically, which is async storage from this async storage package. Everything should be fine now. Yeah, it didn't complain. Let me just restart again. Yeah, everything's working. So we go to create our hook. So for registering user, make the user log in and register. I create a hook because it's much easier to handle. Like, create a hook. Let's have a folder for hooks because I'm going to use a lot of hooks. I love them. Use authentication .ts. Let's use authentication. The hooks are just a simple function with an export. I like the named function rather than the default function. It's helping me a lot later on to debug, and just I like them more like this anyway. But just we need two functions. Register takes email and password, and then we need login, which again gets email and password. Simple stuff. This is like some logs at the moment for us to know what's happening. This is like before registering, so we know like what we pass. We can just delete that later on. We don't need it later anyway. And so to just register a user with Firebase, you just need, it's extremely simple. Create user with email and password. That's it. Like you just say, this is like an async because we need to await this async, and we await for create user, email and password. It's imported from Firebase auth. You can see here. It's simply imported from there, and you're good to go. What it needs basically, it needs the auth, and it needs email and password, of course. Auth, there is two ways to get this. Either you export it from here. You can export auth from here. Yeah, that's because I just initialized it twice anyway. And then get it here. You just import it here. Or the other way is just like say, instead of importing, you just say const auth equal get auth. That's also like comes from Firebase, and you just pass it here. Either way are valid. You just make sure that you initialize it before you're using it here, but if you've done it, then it's fine. It's the same thing. It works both ways. What I need at the moment is I can just call a function const validate, the function called validate, and we said if we just like pass email and the password here, and we said if email doesn't exist and password doesn't exist, return false, else return true. It's just like a simple validation we want to add. Before we register the user, we just say if validate passing password blah blah, it's then you return, and you say alert dot alert. We can just add a customized modal for this, but at the moment I'm just using this. And also one other thing is try and catch. We want to just anything that goes wrong with our registration. Like for example, user is trying to register with the same email that is already registered. All that, it comes to this catch and log. Let's also see how this register user looks like. Yeah, that's it. And also maybe we can alert this error message. This one we would say error registering user, and we want to show the error message. That's it. And exact same thing. Not the exact, but the same structure goes for the login. After we log this, we just say this is also async. Async. I can't type today. Okay, same was creating when registering. This one is sign in. Sign in with email and password. And then same thing, we pass auth, email and password. That's it. If there is anything, we catch and we show error login user, error, login user. That's it. So that's all we need. And what we need is just returning these two functions that we just created so we can use it in our app. Okay, so now we have all these exports, register and login. So we need to just import them in sign up a screen, for example. Just now we want to use it there. Register and then use authentication. You import this use authentication that we created. And then you need to just call this register function. When you press the sign up on press register and email and password, you just call that and it should work. Something like that you need to make sure that you've done is under your authentication. If you go to build authentication, if you haven't started this, there would be a button that says start, and you start it, basically just nothing else. You just start it. And when you get here, no, this one, when you get here, you will face something like this. You have this screen where you need to select which one of these providers do you want to use for your logins and sign up. I use email and password. That's, you just like need to select it and activate it. That's it. And then you just have this basically. So now you have no user, we activated authentication. So everything is connected. Now it should be able to work. So I just go badtest.com, password, sign up. So it's sign up. Sign up was successful because we are now getting this. As you can see, we are now getting this. So it's an email test, and then there's like a token, we don't care. And then there is a user in this, there is a user object inside whatever he returns. But basically it gives you the UID. This is the user ID, and we can use this to add more information about user into the database. We're going to do that later. So at this point is basically it's register and it's logged in, and now we would be able to actually pass this screen, but we haven't made that yet. So great, we have this structure. Right now we can register and we also can log in. We can test that in next step. Okay, so what we need to do is just to create our stacks. So after this happened, basically it sends us to another stack. And that would be the main stack. And that would be just send us to the main screen. After this happened, basically we know that we are logged in. So what we need to do, we go to the app. And we have this auth stack, basically. This is the entry point of our app. We get to this auth stack. We need to have some sort of function, some sort of, basically, maybe I'll just create a hook actually to check if the user is logged in or not. If it's logged in, then we can just create this main stack. Let's just create something into our, we call it app stack. This is where our main app is, and all our navigations are here. I create appstack.tsx, which basically it will follow a similar pattern. So I'm not gonna rewrite that. You don't need this or any of the React Native stuff. But yeah, so what we need is right now I just create one thing here. This is our main stack and we're just landing on the home screen. So just call it home, and then this is home screen. Inside our screen, so we have this auth folder. I create another folder, app folder. This is everything related to our app would go there, and I call this home screen dot tsx, stateless component, screen, yes, home screen and home screen tsx. At the moment we don't need any of this. Yeah, just we have a screen to just show you how it's actually changed when the user logs in. So we need to just import that. Yes, great. So now we have this also app stack. I think I didn't rename this. Yeah, let's rename this. Okay, great. So I import this. So we have app stack, which in our app stack we created another full stack, basically same as what we have there, with like our just home screen as the first screen that user lands. So here you're gonna have more screens, and probably this is going to be, yeah, definitely this is going to be a tab stack that we have some tab navigations and different screens on that. So we're gonna build on that later. So now we just have this one home screen that we want to use. So here, basically, I'm going to say that, well, basically, I'm going to just use something that is logged in, and then use is logged in. We are just creating a hook, just check that if the user is logged in or is not logged in, so he's logged out. So you can just select which one of these stack you want to send the user to. There are hooks. I create another one called use logged in.ts. Amazing. So this is going to be const use logged in as a function. It's a function, and then exports this, export default. Okay, great. So what we need to do, we have a state called used in, use logged in, which is initially, I usually set this initially to null, or like you can just put it as undefined, because I want to know that if whenever this logs always is false, but I want to see the app actually checked the backend that is false or not, or false or true, or is it just the initial state? So the initial state I know is undefined, so it's still, we haven't checked anything. So we can just do a different approach to when we want to show different screens. This is like the best way to do that. Instead of just initially log it false, because false can be its initial state, or it can actually you query from the backend and just ask the backend that if this user is logged in as Firebase, is if this user is logged in or not. So it's like better to initiate it with the undefined. And then of course, like later we want to return this. But in here, basically what we need is a use effect that whenever the app starts, we just don't want to pass any dependency, just like a start once when the app starts. And on auth state change, this is something that you can get it from the authentication from Firebase. This is basically a listener, an event listener that basically listens to the auth. I'm just going to import the auth, and it returns the second argument. It has a user, so we can just say, not this way, we set is logged in, and then we just say user. So if there is a user, means that we are logged in. If there's no user, we just say it's false. And initiate it with undefined. So this would be a Boolean or undefined. That would be the state and the type of this. That's it, that's all I need at the moment. So for now, we just use this in our stack. Use logged in. Amazing. And then as we are going to have more screens and more logic, I say if it's not logged in, show me this screen. Easy. And if it's logged in, show me this screen. That's all I need. So as we are logged in, it just got us here. So I just need to also create the part for login as well, because now we just registered the user. The user is now logged in. That's what that's auth change recognize that we are having a user, and it sends us to this stack. So we need the logout first. This is absolutely essential at this point. We go to use authentication, and we have a const logout. Logout is extremely simple when it comes to Firebase. Just to sign out. That's it. Sign out from Firebase auth. That's, you import this, and yeah, you import this, and then you pass just auth into this. That's it. These are just the messages if anything goes wrong, which usually doesn't. But anyway, so logout. And on our home screen, just for now, just for testing reasons, we import this const logout. That's what we need from use authentication. Great. Let's use our Zen button on press logout. Okay. So now we logged out from the app. So easy. And then we just want to test the login part as well. We haven't done testing the login. Let me just go to the login screen. And some other thing there, because we are mapping through this, let's add a key to this as well. I explained this. Every time we map through some sort of array or some sort of items, and we just use components, to just React knows which components we're using, you need a unique key to pass in here. Yes, and then Z button, of course it's red because it needs on press. We don't have the on press function. On press function is, what we need is login, so we just import login from use authentication. That's all we need. And then login, of course, needs credential, email, and password to log in the user. So if I remember my user, yes, login, and yes, we logged in, and log out, we go back here. So all is working now. And if we just check our Firebase as well, we refresh here, we should have a user. Yes, we have this user here. Everything is working. Thanks for watching this episode, and we are just going to the next episode with more exciting stuff. Make sure you are subscribing, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any question, anything, please put it in the comments. I'll definitely get back to you. Stay tuned and see you in the next episode.